Good morning, everybody. It's the second Thursday of the month, which, of course, that can only mean it's another episode of Breakfast with Tiffany. Breakfast with Tiffany is a casual chat with Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District Representative Tom Tiffany to hear about all the goings-on in his life, the 7th Congressional District, Washington, D.C., and more. If you have a question for the Congressman, let us know in the comments. But, I don't know, let's get right to it. Congressman Tom Tiffany, good morning. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning, Ben. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Is that am I seeing a Seneca hat?
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Yep.
That's
That's
an
the one I
honor.
put on this morning. A little bit cold outside, letting the dog out and all the rest. And yeah, the good Seneca people over in Cumberland.
Yeah.
They make sure we have food on the table, right?
Yeah, that's always nice.
Yes, it is. What'd
Yeah.
you have for breakfast?
Nothing. Coffee. Mhm. So yesterday,
Oh,
what's that?
you're not a breakfast person?
Not usually. No, I like coffee and just kind of getting right to it. I need just caffeine and the jolt. Right?
So my wife makes this really good egg bake, and she made it a couple days ago, and it's a big pan of it, and especially with two of our daughters gone now, it goes further. So we've been having leftovers the last couple days, but it's really good. But always oatmeal also, 365, unless it's a leap year, 366 for oatmeal.
Oatmeal?
Yeah,
For some reason, that doesn't surprise me about you.
put a little honey on it. I always add milk to it. Some people don't like to do that, but I add honey, and oh, it's terrific. Great way to start the day.
Yet my brother, who runs the body shop fitness centers in Shellick and Spooner, he's always telling me oatmeal. Just have a little bit of oatmeal in the morning, even just a small little cup. Put it in whatever you want, like you said, honey. But it's the best thing for you right away in the morning. But I just don't like waking up and eating.
You'll live to be 100 years old if you do that.
Well, then I definitely won't do it because I don't want to live to 100. Except my retirement plan isn't very good.
So I tell my wife that, and she says, "Don't threaten me."
Someone said cinnamon on the oatmeal. Have you ever had that?
Yeah, yeah, nothing wrong with that. That's good. I just, I just love honey on it. I've experimented with a lot of things over the years, and all legal, by the way. And I prefer honey. That's my favorite.
Why did you have to say all legal? Are there illegal things that people put on this?
I hope not. I don't recommend it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it's been about a month. So aside from breakfast, before we get into anything you want to talk about and the 7CD and Washington D.C. and policy stuff, what's been new in your life?
Surviving the cold weather right now. Hey, by the way, did you notice that we had the record low temperature for the lower 48, or the lowest temperature in the lower 48 Tuesday morning up in Land O'Lakes, just north of me? Land O'Lakes is about 15 miles north of Eagle River, right on the border of the Upper Peninsula. They hit 35 below. International Falls, take that.
Are you serious?
35 below yesterday. What's today? Thursday. 2 days ago, Tuesday morning.
And you said it was what was that again? The coldest record in the lower 48?
No, it wasn't a record. It was the coldest temperature in the
coldest.
lower 48
Oh, okay.
on Tuesday morning.
Holy no! I don't have a vehicle right now, so I've been walking to work. Thankfully, I don't live that far away. But holy buckets! Yeah,
You're walking to work?
I picked a bad time to work on my Jeep. I sent it down because there were some structural issues. I don't know. So we had it towed down to Eau Claire, and I sold my other vehicle not long ago to my son. And I'm like, yeah, it's no big deal. Let's walk to work. Well, then all of a sudden this hit. So it's not been enjoyable for me.
There's car dealerships over in your area, isn't there?
All right, picking up your sarcasm. All right. I see how this show's going to go today. All right. So what is it that you would like to talk about this morning?
Oh boy, lots of interesting stuff as usual that's going on, around the world. And probably the first thing I'd mention is that the vaccine rollout continues as we go along here. And one of the things that my staff has found is that so we stay in constant touch with the healthcare facilities that are in the 7th Congressional District, getting updates in regards to the coronavirus and just various things going on around it.
Mhm.
And what we found is, in terms of getting the vaccine, for people that want to do that, the first call should be to your primary doctor. Call your doctor, see if they can get you signed up, all the rest. The other route to go that we found pretty effective is to contact, if you're able to, contact your local healthcare providers online and sign up. All of them have a sign up portal where you can get signed up to get the vaccine. And we found that to be pretty effective in people being able to get the shot or shots if they want it. And very slow rollout starting out in Wisconsin. Editorial comment here. I think we're fortunate that the interim head of the Department of Health Services, she's left for Washington. Her name was Andrea Palm. I didn't think she did a very good job here in Wisconsin, including she didn't get us ready for the vaccine rollout and having a good plan in place. We were 47 out of 50 states. Well, she has left now, and there's a new person that has come in, and I think she's doing a better job. Her name's Karen Timberlake. She worked in the Doyle administration, and while I differ with her politically on a lot of issues, she was competent in running health services back then, and hopefully she'll do the same here. We're hearing that there are improvements happening here in Wisconsin in terms of getting the vaccine out, but people should go to your local healthcare provider, your primary care provider, or get on the portal for your local healthcare provider online and get signed up if you want to get the vaccine.
Sure. So when you had said that you believed, and I don't want to get into too much into this, but for the average person looking at this, we see the Andrea Palm and now this new person. How do we really know if someone's doing a good job or not a good job? And I know a lot of people, right or wrong, but the buck stops with the governor. It's just, that's leadership. That's how it works. We'll put that a lot on the governor. You're saying that maybe this could have been partly to do with the, I think at the time, what was it called? The designee, at the time, Andrea Palm. Do you think that Governor Evers was getting bad advice, or not necessarily bad advice, but maybe not the best advice or counsel on this stuff, and maybe you're seeing that different now?
I think you saw a lack of good management,
Okay.
and that's oftentimes all in the people that you choose as the chief executive, as Governor Evers is. And we saw it with unemployment, where he stuck with his appointee, who was, I don't remember his name, but the unemployment situation has been a disaster in Wisconsin. People went months. In fact, there might still be a few people that haven't gotten their checks. I don't know. But people went months without their checks, and there were news stories all over the state, especially the latter part of the year, people not being able to get their unemployment checks. We were seeing the same thing with the vaccine under the leadership of Andrea Palm. And what I really thought was happening there, I believe that she was so focused on the contact tracing part of it, which was important, but she was so focused on getting contact tracers rather than getting ready for the vaccine. And by the way, in regards to the vaccine, remember, President Trump said we may have the vaccine by the end of the year. He was saying that towards the end of summer.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what happened. We had the vaccine by the end of December. Remember, as Dr. Fauci, who right after that said, no, that's not going to be here by the end of the year. At best, we'll probably hit the second or third quarter of 2021. Mm-hmm. And that was inaccurate. And I think I don't know if that fed into the thinking for the Department of Health Services, but they clearly were not ready to roll this vaccine out right away. Now, that has improved, and hopefully with new leadership in the Department of Health Services, it'll get better. The thing that I'm concerned about now is Andrea Palm is now working for the Biden administration out in Washington, D.C., and I see this as another case of failing up, and I'm very concerned about what's going to happen at the federal level.
Sure. We have a question here from Deborah, and I think you should be able to see it on the screen there, Tom. It says, thoughts on those of us not wanting a vaccine right away. Any comment to that or any response?
The approach that I'm taking, and let me be very clear, I am not dispensing medical advice. You go talk to your doctor in regards to this. But I personally will be waiting to take the vaccine primarily because I believe others should get it before I do. I'm healthy. I do not have any underlying conditions. I believe I should be among the last to get the vaccine if I choose to get it. And but I think that's a very personal decision. I was just reading some data here before we went on the air, and I see there's estimates out there by the Centers for Disease Control that up to a third of Americans are not interested in taking the vaccine, and there's just some people that they don't want to take the vaccine, and it's a personal choice. People should decide what they're going to do. I know I'm going to hold off for a while here and see how this all plays out. I think especially, I think about my daughters. So they're early 20s. One daughter's in her late teens. And I've told them they should wait also because, they're of the lowest risk. This is the opposite of the measles and mumps. So we got our daughters those vaccines when they were young because they need them. And you want to make sure that doesn't happen. I remember when I was a kid, we all got measles and it would just spread through the whole school.
Yeah.
And but this is a situation where the virus has not nearly the danger for young people. In fact, the former head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, back in August said, you have a greater chance of getting the common flu and cold than you do the coronavirus vaccine if you're under the age of 20. So I've just told my daughters, I think that they should probably wait. But once again, I really want to put the disclaimer on there, Ben. Get your medical advice from a medical doctor.
Yeah. And save those for me. I've said before that I'm in my 40s, so I'm not, as well. I'm not, obviously 70s or 80s, but I've also, I don't say this proudly, but a smoker for many years. I would be the kind of person that would die in his 40s from COVID. So yeah, I love your advice. Don't get it. Just allow me to get it first. Love it. I want to ask you about I saw something. So every time you come on, I just Google your name, Tom Tiffany, in Google, and then just hit the news selection. Boy, you really haven't been saying anything, or nobody's been reporting anything. So I just went to what's going on in D.C. right now. And one of the things I'd noticed, and I want to know, are you involved in this? Are you a part of this in your role in the House, is the $15 minimum wage. Is that something that is on your plate as a congressperson? And if so, what are your thoughts on that?
So what the Biden administration is talking about doing with Congress is putting this into this omnibus spending bill, stimulus bill, the $1.9 trillion that you see that's regularly reported in the news. That's where they're looking at putting that $15 minimum wage. Now, there is a problem for Congress in regards to that because it's pretty clear that the Senate parliamentarian who says, is this germane to a bill that's going to go through the process that cannot be filibustered, where it would only take 51 votes. And it appears quite apparent that it cannot go through the budget process like that. Now, the Senate Democrats can overrule that just through a majority vote, 51, if they choose to. We will see if they do that. Now, I know President Biden has been backing off from that a little bit. Some of the things that I've been seeing, he still wants to get the $15 minimum wage, but he'd rather not put it through the reconciliation process that only requires a majority vote. So we will see what happens. We'll be voting on it in the House. I'm sure House Democrats, the House has a little different rules than the Senate does in regards, we don't have a filibuster. And but I'm sure that's going to be in a bill, or it'll be in some bill here that will be coming out of the House of Representatives. I do not believe in a mandated $15 minimum wage. I think it penalizes, and we are seeing that coming from the Congressional Budget Office. They're saying there'll probably be 1.4 million jobs lost, is their estimate, if the minimum wage is raised to $15. And it's real simple, because some people who make less than $15 an hour will lose their jobs. The employer will go out of business, or else they'll find another way to be able to conduct their business. So it really hurts the people just getting started. And I always use this comparison. I think about my daughters when they got their first jobs. They're getting paid $7 to $8 an hour, something like that. And then they begin to make their way up the totem pole. They were being paid $7 to $8 an hour for a reason, because that's what they were worth to that employer. And until they gain the experience and the knowledge to be able to justify them making more money, then they receive more money. Now, that happened after they put in a couple years and proved that they were worth more money, and they're well on their way now. But by doing this, you eliminate, by putting in place the $15 minimum wage, you eliminate some of those lower wage jobs that allow especially young people to get a start out in the workplace and prove themselves.
Yeah. Can you, a lot of people, okay, one person, me, I guess, is wondering why does this get added on to something like that? Why is that not its own legislation, its own bill, its own thing? Because I think that's a significant thing. I mean, I think it's like for 4 years, like slowly ticking up to $15 an hour or 4 year, less than I had read. But that's a big deal. I mean, at the federal level, why does this get attached to something?
Yeah, one of the greatest frustrations that I hear from constituents is bills that get loaded up with stuff that is not germane to what the main bill is supposed to be about, and it's really frustrating. And it goes back to the congressional process that's being used now. It really is broken down. You know, as somebody that just came from the state legislature, you know, I was there a year ago and had helped write 3 budgets. The budget process and also just how we go about advancing legislation is really broken. And I got to tell you, the last couple of years now, it is really broken. I just look at the time that I've been there since May of last year, 2020, and almost all bills are not going, they're seeing very little activity in a committee. They're just being brought directly to the floor. And that's really not how we should be doing business. I mean, I give you an example. I sit on the Judiciary Committee, and we see the impeachment trial that's going on this week. So impeachment was done a few weeks ago in the House of Representatives. That didn't even go through the Judiciary Committee. There were no hearings. There was no fact-finding, nothing. It was brought to the floor, debated for 2 to 3 hours, and that was it. And it really eliminated the due process that anyone should expect, where there could be cross-examination. Let's get all the facts out. None of that happened. And that really highlights how a number of bills are going through Congress at this point with very little committee hearings and just a real robust looking at issues from all facets so that good decisions are being made. And it's really an unfortunate part of how the congressional bill writing process has broken down here over the last few years.
I have a question here actually from Romaine Quinn. Before I put that up, I want to ask, why? Why are things not going through the committees as typically as before?
Because leadership has chosen not to. This started about a decade ago. And let's be clear, Democrats and Republicans are responsible for this. And like the budget process, you see these omnibus bills that are just brought to the floor rather than a detailed review of each agency of government and then writing their budgets, which we did in the state legislature. We would take each agency one by one and go through them. And that's what will happen with the coming budget in the state legislature. That's not being done here, maybe being done a little bit in certain instances, but overall it's not being done. And that failure of the budget process is really a big problem. And it's part of the reason why you see our budget deficit continue to skyrocket at the federal level, approaching $30 trillion.
All right, so here's a question. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. Nothing is upsetting people more. Well, you go ahead and read that. Everyone else will be able to see it. Can you speak to the legislation you and Congressman Gallagher put out? I'm not really sure what Romaine's referring to. I'm assuming you do.
Yeah, it's a bill that is called the Oversight of Members and Relatives. Congressman Gallagher over in Green Bay and I just put that out last week. It goes by the acronym OMAR, O-M-A-R, Oversight of Members and Relatives. And really in its simplest form, it prevents members of Congress from paying their spouses to be consultants for their campaign or running their campaigns. We've seen this, I believe, too many times. There was an example just in 2020, Representative Ilhan Omar from over in Minneapolis, she paid her husband $2.8 million for his consulting company to run her campaign. That was almost all the money that he made within his consulting firm was the payments from her. And but this is probably the starkest example of it happening. But it has happened before, both Republicans and Democrats. And by the way, this almost the same identical bill was introduced by Representative Adam Schiff from California back in 2007. And Speaker Pelosi at the time endorsed the bill, said this is a good bill. And so Congressman Gallagher and I are bringing that bill back so that people can't be enriching their families by using their office to do that. And in this case, taking campaign funds and using them for those purposes. I just think that's wrong. And I think it's a good bill, and I'm hoping it'll be a bipartisan bill.
Yeah, so you had said the acronym was OMAR, and then you just referenced OMAR. Is it one of those things where you just kind of, what we should call it? OMAR. And then we'll just figure out the words after that.
Yeah, no, we just, so it is tied to that.
Sure.
But I think it's a very appropriate acronym, oversight of members and relatives. Yeah. And you shouldn't be enriching family members. And we saw this example so clearly last year in 2020. And I think it's the poster child of one of the things. And what does that do, Ben? It really causes the public to be even more jaded about Congress. Why do we rank pretty low on the totem pole in terms of
trustability? I think trustability, you're below car salesman, dude. That's horrible.
And by the way, a car salesman that you need to go see.
Yep.
No, it really is the case. And it undermines trust in the institution. Yeah. And that's the main reason that we're putting that forward.
Yeah. All right. What else is going on over there in D.C.? Hey, real quick. When you go to work in Washington, D.C., and I don't know how many days you actually spend there, and I know there's no such thing as an average day, but that's exactly what it is, an average day. So just pick a random day, and what is an average day of a congressman in Washington, D.C. at your office? What do you do? When does your day start? When does it finish? And just kind of what do you do? How many floor sessions do you have? Committee meetings, phone calls? I don't know. What's an average day like?
So my experience so far is I'm generally out there about every other week, generally speaking. A week home in the district, a week out there debating bills, just doing legislative work. And but what my day looks like, so I'm one of those people that stays in the Capitol. I stay in my office, and I've adapted to that. And I'm usually up at 6 o'clock in the morning, get ready to go for the day. And I'm reading, taking phone calls, stuff like that by 7 or 8 o'clock. Usually sit down and talk to my staff a little bit about what's going on and things that we want to accomplish because they're always throwing ideas at me. And so there's a variety of things that are going on like that. And then through the day, there's oftentimes meetings. So I sit on two committees, Judiciary and Natural Resources. Did we talk about Natural Resources last time? I don't think we did because I hadn't been confirmed to be on Natural Resources. Mm-mm. So we should cover that after we talk about this. Sure. So if there's any committee hearings, subcommittee hearings, stuff like that, those will be going on. We'll do that. Oftentimes, we're out there when we're casting votes on the floor. So we'll go cast votes when they come up. Those are usually in the afternoon going into the evening that we're casting votes. And so just a variety of stuff like that, taking some phone calls, making phone calls, having meetings with constituents. Oftentimes, especially in the age of, the video stuff with the coronavirus, a lot of meetings are done via video at this point. And so we'll have some of them with constituents. Sure. Because in the past, pre-coronavirus, you'd have people rolling through all day from interest groups, whether it's the forest products people, Farm Bureau, you name the group, home builders, name the group. And they would come out to Capitol Hill. And so we'd have meetings usually generally throughout the day. And that's not happening now with the with Washington, D.C. largely shut down.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we get to your committee thing, I just want to catch up on a couple of questions here. Here's one How much of the $1.9 trillion stimulus proposal is going to other countries? If any of it is going to other countries, how can it be considered a stimulus for Americans?
That's a really good question.
Oh, thanks,
And
Deborah.
I don't have the exact answer on that, but we're going to find out the answer. And let's make sure that, because I don't know if it's this bill or if it was a previous stimulus bill that did put hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in for foreign countries. And which is really terribly inappropriate for that to be happening at this point in time where we're debating how are we going to help Americans. And we're going to get the answer on that. I know the number is above zero. I know that much. We will get the answer for
Okay.
Deborah.
And then one more here. This is a little longer. Hopefully it doesn't disappear before you finish reading it. So essentially, if DNR management practices are related to raising iron and manganese levels, would you weigh in on it? Is that something you can speak to? You want to put that back up here? Sorry.
Yeah, so iron and manganese levels. So, I mean, it is largely a state issue. I guess I'd need to know more detail in regards to it.
Sure.
But it is largely a state issue, and hopefully the Department of Natural Resources and local legislators should be aware of this and be following up on it.
Sure.
I'd have to have more detail really to be able to comment on it.
Sure, no problem. So you are now on this other committee. What is that committee?
Oh, yeah. So I'm on Judiciary. I was on Judiciary previously, and in last session. I was on Science, Space, and Technology.
I remember
also.
That one.
Yeah,
not anymore?
And a good committee. But my first choice was Natural Resources, especially with us in northern Wisconsin in regards to forestry, agriculture, tourism. Tourism is largely natural resources based. And with all those things, I thought that was really a priority for the district and something that I've done so much work on, especially on the forestry side, and really looking forward to working on those issues here as we go forward. And I think one of the things you'll see come out of this is, the whole Green New Deal, and should we be getting rid of fossil fuels? That's all going to flow through that committee also, and I'm really looking forward to dealing with that issue, because we already saw a preemptive strike by President Biden where he shut down the Keystone Pipeline, which is going to cost Wisconsin hundreds, if not a couple thousand jobs. I don't know if people know this, but from what I understand, two of the top 7 pipeline manufacturers in the country are right here in Wisconsin. And in fact, one in the Eau Claire area. And this is going to cost jobs to Wisconsin, shutting down Keystone, and not to add in the whole part about it's going to raise the cost of energy and all the rest. So that's a real concern.
Is there I literally just noticed this morning, because I never pay attention to gas prices when I'm going by in a vehicle. But of course I'm walking, so I'm walking past the gas station this morning on the way to work, and it was, I don't remember, it's like around here, it's been around $2.19 or something. And I don't know when it changed, but certainly in the last few days, it jumped up to $2.44. And obviously everyone's prices are different. Is that something that we're seeing for any particular reason? And that's an upward trend? I don't know. Obviously, you're probably not an expert on this stuff, certainly, but are you seeing some of those trends as well, that gas is starting to go up in our area?
Yeah, I'm hearing it in regards to asphalt. Asphalt is up 15%. You're seeing gasoline prices rise. I mean, it's all about expectations. That's how markets work.
Okay.
And it's the expectations that people have. And when they see things like the Keystone Pipeline being shut down and what is going to be next, by the way, it costs about $1 a barrel to transport oil via a pipeline. So this oil is still going to be transported, that's being produced. It's probably going to be transported via rail. And it costs $3 a barrel. So you've already added 6 cents a gallon to gasoline by forcing oil to be transported via rail versus pipeline. So yeah, I think it's already having an impact on driving oil prices up.
All right. What else do you want to talk about that we haven't had a chance to touch on? And please, hopefully it includes a great story, an embarrassing story about Romaine Quinn.
Well, there's so many. There's so many. Is he working now?
Who knows? I mean, define work.
Yeah. No, Romaine did a great job, and Dave Armstrong's going to do a good job
Yeah.
as his replacement, representing that region over there. And probably the final thing, I've been in. We've talked frequently about schools, and I'm very concerned about what the Biden administration is going to do in regards to schools. For people that heard his press secretary speak this week, she said they're going to count one day a week as being back in school. One day a week back in school for most parents does not qualify for being back in school. No reason to not have kids back in school. They are not the vectors, the carriers of the coronavirus. They're very low susceptibility. No reason not to have kids back in school. No reason not to have kids participating in extracurricular activities. And I really hope that the Biden administration reverses course on this whole thing where they are not willing to say, let's get kids back in school. By the way, not only did the previous CDC director say, Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield say it, but the current one, President Biden's nominee, she is saying the same thing. And it does not require a vaccine. That's what she said, the CDC director, just in the last couple of weeks. Kids should be back in school.
Yeah. We have time for one more here, and I think we touched on this last time here on, but might as well again, what is your position regarding Trump's behavior? Well, it says encouraging, so assuming it was, but a lot of people assume that it is. So what is your, again, I think we talked about this last time you were on, but now with the things, more and more stuff that's kind of coming out, where's your position on this? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I believe President Trump bears some responsibility.
Sure.
And but I think there's a lot of people that bear responsibility in the political realm after what's happened over the last year. So I condemned the rioting that went on in the Capitol January 6th. But I also condemned the rioting back when it happened at the end of May and June in Minneapolis, Madison, and places like that. And there are a lot of politicians that did not do that. In fact, some politicians were setting up funds to get people bail money who were causing the riots. And it's time for everybody in the political realm to condemn the rioting and stop what's going on here and give their support to law enforcement to control what's going on, because it has not stopped. In Washington, D.C., there was a march last week by Antifa and other groups where they were harassing diners. You look at Portland and Seattle, it's still out of control out there. And while it may not be reported much, those things are still happening. And I don't care where they come from in the political spectrum. If you're causing unrest that leads to violence and using that to advance your political agenda, it's just wrong and it needs to stop.
Yeah. Do you think we'll ever get there? Or do you see that transition at some point here soon? Are we talking this year, or is it, the longer it goes on, the better it's going to be, or do you see this getting worse?
I hope it does not become acceptable, and it will happen when the people rise up and say to their political representatives, we're going to support the police, we're going to hold them accountable for their actions, but we're going to support the police, and we want peace in the streets. When the people of America rise up and say, we're tired of the rising, I mean, remember, Ben, we're seeing significantly higher violent crime rates across America. I think Minneapolis, violent crime is up like 30% or more this year. Why is that? It's not hard to figure out. When you can riot and there's no consequences to that, I mean, that's going to continue to happen. Carjackings are common now in Minneapolis, and as well as other parts of the country. As soon as the citizens of these cities say enough is enough, that's when it's going to stop.
What's on your agenda this week? Are you at home this week? Are you going to DC? What's your plan this week?
So we're going to be busy. We've got some listening sessions that we're getting put together. When we finalize them, we're going to put those out when those are going to happen. And but those are in the formative stage. We're going to get those out there. And we're going to be doing that stuff. And then we'll be back in Washington, D.C. in about 10 days. I think we'll have 2 weeks where we'll be out there voting on various stuff, including, I suspect, the next bill, the next stimulus bill of $1.9 trillion that will probably go through the reconciliation process.
Yeah.
So, yeah, stuff like that. And
probably, I don't know if you watch or have Peacock. It's free app, NBC thing, whatever. I should let you know, all the Harry Potters are on Peacock right now.
Really?
Yeah. I'm saying that because for most people that don't know, yeah, you're a Harry Potter fan.
This would be a really good weekend to pull that series back up again and watch it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I've already watched like 3 of them now. Yeah. I thought of you as soon as I saw it. I'm like, oh, I got to tell Tom.
It's a great series. If you haven't seen it, the Harry Potter series is great. Whether you're young or old, doesn't matter.
All right, so thank you. It looks like we had some more comments, but we're already past our time. Hopefully next time that you are on, we'll kind of give a little reminder so people can kind of get their questions in a little bit sooner so we can get to most of those. Otherwise, any last words, any last comments, Congressman?
Keep those cards and letters coming. By the way, if anybody has any concerns, if they have veterans issues, Social Security, you name it, whatever that the federal government deals with, don't hesitate to contact my office. The local number is 715-298-9344, or you can contact us online anytime, and we'll be happy to take your questions, answer them, and do the very best that we can to solve any concerns that you may have.
Sure. Tom, as always, thanks so much for being available to do this. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, one other thing, Ben.
Oh, sure. What's up?
One other thing. Yeah, besides that, once again, that number is 715-298-9344. But also, we put out a weekly e-update. We put out an email every week that gives a summary of stuff that we're dealing with. Just go to my website and click on sign up for weekly update for the newsletter, whatever that says on there.
I'll have to go back.
What's that?
What's your website? You said go to that.
Just find Tom Tiffany.
Just Google it.
Yeah, exactly. And but when you get to that website, you'll find a place where you can sign up for that. And we've got thousands of people that get that every week. If you want to see it, we're always putting in information that we think is pertinent and timely. And we encourage people to sign up for it, and we'll keep them updated.
I've signed up for it, but for selfish reasons. I just want to see if you mentioned that you were on Dryden Wire in that week's update. So I get them. Yeah, we're going to see.
Okay. Duly noted.
All right, cool. Thanks so much, Tom. I certainly appreciate it. Have a wonderful day. You've been watching Breakfast with Tiffany, a monthly chat on Dryden Wire featuring Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District Representative Tom Tiffany. Thank you, Congressman, of course, for being here. And thank all of you for watching. Until next time, stay safe. And right now, holy cow, stay warm. And as always, have a blessed day.